Madam Audrey Azoulay, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, Director General of the World Health Organization, and to Mrs. Michelle Bachelet, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. The reason for this extraordinary panel coming here together today is because of the unprecedented challenges facing humanity today, and to share with you the role that science can play in meeting global challenges and this health emergency. Taking advantage of our digital age, we hope to spread their voices across the world by broadcasting live today on Facebook, YouTube, and UN Web TV. Without much further ado, with great pleasure, I would like to give the floor now to Madam Audrey Azoulay, the Director General of UNESCO. Madam Azoulay, the floor is yours, ma'am. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Shamila. Dear Dr. Tedros, Director General of the World Health Organization, dear Michelle Bachelet, UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. It's a great honor and pleasure to be with you today, with you, dear Tedros, with you, dear Michelle. We're here to launch a very important appeal, an appeal in favor of open science, the science we need for the future we want. As Shamila Nair-Bedwell just said, this year has shown how fragile we are, how connected we are, and how the decision we make depend on these decisions depend our ability to access the best possible knowledge. Never has the need for universal access to science been so clear. Never has the need for this science to be shared. And yet, before COVID-19, only 1 in 4 scientific publications were openly accessible, meaning millions of researchers were denied the possibility of reading their colleagues' works. Today, closed science models do no longer work because they amplify inequalities between countries and researchers, and because they only make scientific progress available to a minority. This health crisis has shown the incredible potential of scientific cooperation at international level, this cooperation that has allowed us to sequence the virus genome so quickly. The solidarity shown by the scientific community is a model for the future. In the face of global challenges, we need collective intelligence today more than ever. As countries call for international scientific collaboration, as the scientific community, civil society, innovator, the private sector mobilize in these unprecedented times, the urgency of the transition to open science has never been more necessary and more clear. Today, we are, I think, in excellent company to discuss how to support international scientific collaboration in the spirit of open science and in the framework of human rights. It is very encouraging to see that even major commercial editors are now moving towards open science. But of course, open science is not only a question of opening up access to publication. It goes far beyond. It means making the entire scientific process more accessible, more transparent, more participatory by sharing data, protocols, software, and infrastructure. Open science also means taking science outside the scientific community by developing open educational resources and developing scientific culture. We've seen that we needed this scientific culture to democratize science and ensure that it responds to the need of contemporary society. The question is no longer whether open science is happening, but how everyone can contribute to it and benefit from this transition. How do we make sure that open science lives up to its potential of fulfilling the human right to science? How do we guarantee that open science truly makes a difference for scientists and for society as a whole, particularly in developing countries and marginalized communities? Today, the global community urgently needs to ensure that open science does not replicate the failures of traditional closed science systems. It is these failures that have led to a high level of mistrust in science, to the disconnect between science and society, and to the widening of science, technology, and innovation gaps between and within countries. To start with, we must address the fragmented scientific and policy environment of open science. We still do not have a global common understanding of the meaning, opportunities, and challenges of open science. International norms and standards are urgently needed. And to support this transition, to create a common framework, develop a definition of open science based on consensus, UNESCO's 193 member states mandated the organization to draft an international instrument, a recommendation on open science. This mandate was given to UNESCO last year. And this global standard setting instrument would aim at building a coherent vision of open science, a shared set of overarching principles and values. This instrument would include also key actions, not only for governments, but for all scientific actors. And as such, it will ensure that open science fulfills its potential by furthering the fundamental right to science and to leaving no one behind. I am very pleased to inform you that just last month, following extensive consultation and the work of a committee of 30 international experts, I transmitted the first draft of this international recommendation to our member states for their comments. This draft with a clear definition, with key objectives, and with key elements for open science. This text is today open for comments, and I would like to invite you to provide your inputs. The revised text will then be negotiated by member states who are scheduled to adopt a final version of this instrument at our next General Conference by the end of 2021. We're hopeful that this recommendation on open science will provide the necessary framework for actors all across the world to transform and democratize science. And in this way, we can ensure that science truly responds to the most pressing needs of people and of the planet for the benefit of all. We therefore hope that you will join the appeal that we are launching today with WHO, with UNHCR, in favor of science without borders or barriers. And to conclude, I would like to share the words of this year's Nobel Prize in Chemistry, Emmanuelle Charpentier. She was our laureate, UNESCO L'Oréal laureate for women in science in 2016. And I quote her words: "For today's scientists, crossing borders between countries and disciplines is instrumental to opening doors to new questions and new answers." I thank you for your attention and for your contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Director General. I now have great pleasure to give the floor to Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, Director General of WHO. Thank you, Dr. Tedros. The floor is yours, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Moderator. Madam Audrey Azoulay, Director General of UNESCO, and Madam Michelle Bachelet, High Commissioner for Human Rights, distinguished guests, dear colleagues and friends. Thank you for the opportunity of joining you today for the launch of the Joint Appeal for Open Science. Since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have looked to science to guide us. Science enabled us to isolate, sequence, and test for this new virus in record time. Science has helped us to understand how the virus is transmitted, how it causes disease, and how we can prevent it. And science is leading us, hopefully, towards a safe and effective vaccine. As an evidence-based organization, science and solidarity have been at the heart of everything WHO does since our founding. For years, our HINERI program has given researchers in more than 125 low and middle income countries and territories free access to thousands of the world's top scientific journals. Last year, WHO joined Coalition S, an initiative to promote full and immediate open access to publicly funded research. Since the beginning of the pandemic, our priority has been to ensure that all people enjoy the fruits of science. Every day, we bring together hundreds of scientists from around the world to review the latest evidence and distill it into guidance. In April, we joined the European Commission to launch the Access to COVID-19 Tools Accelerator to speed up the development of vaccines, diagnostics, and therapeutics, and to ensure they're available equitably to all countries. And together with Costa Rica, in May, we launched the WHO Solidarity Call to Action and the COVID-19 Technology Access Pool, or CTAP, to accelerate the discovery of medical countermeasures through open science research and to mobilize additional manufacturing capacity. In these difficult times, the best health technologies and discoveries cannot be reserved only for a few. They must be available to all. After all, what's the purpose of having cutting-edge technologies if they cannot reach the people that need them the most? Sharing data and information that's often kept secret or protected by intellectual property could significantly advance the speed at which technologies are developed. An open research process also promotes transparency and helps to safeguard against misuse and allows others to validate the research process. So I warmly welcome today's call for open science, a call for inclusiveness and solidarity. And I would like to congratulate Audrey, our sister, for your leadership. And I call on all member states, international organizations, researchers, funders, and the private sector to uphold the ideals of the international recommendation on open science. And I call on them to join the COVID-19 Technology Access Pool to voluntarily share knowledge, intellectual property, and data for the detection, prevention, and treatment of COVID-19. Thank you to Michelle Bachelet for your support for CTAP since the beginning. And again, thank you to Audrey for joining us in supporting this innovative mechanism. And thank you to OHCHR, UNESCO, and CERN for launching our joint appeal on open science. We're stronger together. I thank you. Muchas gracias. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup, Dr. Tedros. Je vous remercie beaucoup. Thank you, Dr. Tedros. I would like to now give the floor to Madame Michelle Bachelet, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. Madame Bachelet, the floor is yours, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dear colleagues, Audrey, Director General of UNESCO, and Tedros, Director General of WHO, Excellencies, friends. Our joint call today is principled, life-saving, and urgent. Worldwide, people need states, international bodies, science and medical institutions, and practitioners to ensure the broadest possible sharing of scientific knowledge and the broadest possible access to the benefits of scientific knowledge. This is key to any effective public health policy. It is essential to the combat against climate change, and it is a fundamental matter of human rights. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights explicitly proclaims the right, and I will quote, to share scientific advances and its benefits, end of quote. COVID-19 has brought this issue of open information into sharp focus. The suppression or denial of scientific evidence in some circles and reluctance to adopt evidence-based policies have magnified the devastating harms the pandemic has generated. A basic principle of public health is the need for full and honest engagement with the public. Use of force will not mitigate or end this pandemic, but the use of science and fully informed public consent and compliance will. Last week, our sister agency WHO teamed up with Wikipedia to provide free and timely access information about COVID-19. I applaud this innovative development. The pandemic also gives new importance to the need to ensure non-discriminatory access to the benefits of science, such as any COVID-19 treatments and vaccines. Under international human rights law, states have a clear obligation to ensure international cooperation and access to a vaccine. Everyone, including vulnerable or marginalized individuals and groups, is entitled to enjoy the benefits of scientific progress. And when the benefits of science are managed as a purely commercial product reserved for the wealthy, everyone is harmed. The Committee on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights has devoted considerable attention to this issue in recent months, notably in its General Comment 25 on Science and Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, which counsels that intellectual property regimes should be implemented in a manner supportive of states' duty to protect public health, and in particular, to promote access to medicines for all. The benefits of scientific and medical progress were always meant to be shared. The great beauty of science is that it has no borders, and that working together, every scientist and student of science can contribute to the shared knowledge and benefits for all. As part of our work to better address and recover from COVID-19, we need to honor this essential spirit of scientific endeavor with much wider data and information exchange, technology transfer, and overall expansion of the availability of medicines and telehealth technologies. Open science is not only about fostering enhanced sharing of scientific knowledge and outcomes. We also need to promote the inclusion of scholarship by people whose contributions and needs are too often overlooked. Those participating fully in the global scientific effort should also take into account the needs and experiences of women, members of minority communities, indigenous scholars, persons with disabilities, people living in poverty, and people from less developed countries, among others. Only then will research fully address all communities and contribute to reducing the unequal access to scientific developments and capabilities across different countries and regions. Colleagues, everyone's right to share in scientific advancement and its benefits has been attacked in recent years, particularly in the context of discussion of climate change. In some circles, the issue of whether climate change even exists or is caused by human activity is treated as a matter of personal belief rather than rigorous science. As a group of 58 experts wrote in 2018, a false equivalence is created between an overwhelming scientific consensus and a lobby heavily funded by vested interests. This deliberate introduction of doubt about clear and factual evidence is catastrophic for our planet. Our joint call today emphasizes that public policies should rely on verified information, facts, and scientific knowledge. Because, as Secretary General Antonio Guterres has said, we must listen to the Earth's best scientists. And this is a matter of saving individual lives, the future of community and nations, and our planet. Finally, a brief word about a big subject, data. Sound statistical data are closely related to scientific progress, and they're a vital human rights tool. As I never tire of saying, we will never be able to fix what we cannot see. Our office leads UN-wide work on data collection that is carefully disaggregated and integrates human rights concerns. And this is crucial to acknowledging and transforming long-standing discrimination and other human rights violations which impede the full enjoyment of rights. I'm convinced that open science can help to unlock vital keys to recovery and a better world. Thank you for your attention and for standing up for human rights. Muchas gracias, merci beaucoup. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Bachelet. Thank you very much for your presentation. Dear colleagues, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we have come today with a very extraordinary, exceptional panel in front of you, making an appeal to put a face to science. Science is mankind's greatest enterprise, and we should ensure that no one is left behind. This extraordinary panel have come together today in this appeal, which we would like to share with you now on the screens. Dear colleagues, could you please put the appeal up? Thank you. This is a call for member states. This is a call for policymakers, for civil society, for governments, for enterprises, for youth, for the scientific community to uphold the ideals of open science. Let us put a face to science, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, to fulfill its potential of bringing science to all. All these, the open science recommendation, as well as this joint appeal for open science, will be available on the UNESCO website and all the UN website. Please join us in this call, ladies and gentlemen. And once again, a big hand of applause to our 3 exceptional leaders for putting forward this appeal for open science and ensuring that science moves without borders. Thank you all, and thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you.